All right. Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another wrestling match review. More specifically, another WrestleMania review. More specifically than that, the final WrestleMania review, at least for the time being, as we're wrapping up WrestleMania season. And I know I'm a few days late when it comes to this, but hopefully you guys can forgive me. Right? But anyway, to conclude our journey, we once again find ourselves at WrestleMania 22. This time, Shawn Michaels takes on the boss himself. I'm talking about how Shawn Michaels versus Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania 22. Now, really quick before we get into things, um, like thinking about it, I think, in terms of these individual match reviews, not counting like when I review full pay-per-views and everything, or like full events, I think of all these like WrestleMania, individual match reviews, I think I visited WrestleMania 22 the most. Like, I think I only have one, two, three, uh, four, five, 6 matches to review left. Only five if you don't count the pre-show, but yeah. So I reviewed WrestleMania 22 quite a bit here on this channel. But as always, I am not professional wrestling reviewer or analyst or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and also that's not on purpose. It's just it happens to be a lot of the stuff I want to talk about and want to cover on the channel. Happens to be at WrestleMania 22. That is where a lot of like history lies at. Not just in like some iconic matches, but some iconic moments. Like I've talked about Ray winning the World Heavyweight Championship. I've talked about Edge versus Mick Foley. I've done that twice. I've talked about the main event uh, I think I've talked about Trish versus Mickey James and the interesting situation with that, and now this match and the Money in the Bank. I actually reviewed that last week, so if you haven't already, go check out that review as well as the other ones. But nevertheless, as always, not professional wrestling reviewer or analyst or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I can't lie, I had a pretty fun time with this match. Maybe not for the reason you would think or normally associate with enjoying a wrestling match. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and disliked about this match. As for how we got here, technically this starts within December of 2005. But in reality, it kind of starts back at Survivor Series 1997 with the Montreal Screwjob. I'm sure you've probably heard it talked about to death here on YouTube. But pretty much to give you the short version, Vince McMahon screwed over Bret Hart, ushered in the Attitude Era, in a way ushered in the Mr. McMahon character, and the rest is history. Now, fast forward to December of 2005, Vince is bringing up the Montreal Screwjob once again, and kind of talking about Shawn's part in the Montreal Screwjob, to which Shawn says he didn't really have a part. He was just doing what needs to be done for the company, and he was essentially just following orders, and it was all Vince McMahon's doing. So Shawn essentially denies really having a part in the Montreal Screwjob, and Vince is not like that. No, no, no. And then it kind of also shifts to a conflict, like Vince being upset that Shawn uh is not. It kind of shifts into a difference of lifestyles. Like Shawn, at this point, is born again. He's a born again Christian, and he's on the righteous path and everything. And meanwhile, Vince has been described in several ways as pretty much the embodiment of Satan himself. Like, hey, all the stuff that Vince is up to, at least in terms of kayfabe, the real life stuff. Yeah, but at least in terms of kayfabe, Vince is the total opposite. And Vince, they do kind of also bring up the history of like Montreal Screwjob. They do bring it up. Like Vince says, "I already screwed Brett, Shawn. don't make me screw you too. And sure enough, Vince screws Shawn. Like, he booked Shawn in matches against the Spirit Squad. This is around when they were a thing. He booked him in a match against Shane. Shane locked in the sharpshooter, and Vince called for the bell. Pretty much harkening back to the Montreal Screwjob. Vince cost Shawn the Royal Rumble after Shane came in and threw out Shawn as Vince had him distracted. And so Vince has essentially been making Shawn's life a living hell. And so it's led to them having this match here at WrestleMania. And it's also announced that this match will be no holds barred. And now, getting into what I liked about this match, there is a lot of hijinks. If you are looking for, as the old saying goes, if you're looking for a technical masterpiece, you're not going to find it here. This is pretty much a variety of, I don't want to say skits, but very much a variety of shenanigans in a lot of ways. Even starts off that way with Vince showing off like the framed image of him on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, his issue that he had, and then Shawn taking that and whacking Vince over the head with it, and Vince's head lining up with where his head's positioned on the cover. Nice. And then the Spirit Squad show up. Shawn dispatches them. I will say this about the Spirit Squad. Now, say what you want about them and their gimmick and everything, which their gimmick, heck, I don't necessarily hate. Like, granted, it does age about as well as a lot of other stuff in the Ruthless Aggression era, which is to say it ages about as well as a tall glass of milk on a warm summer's day. But as heels, they're obnoxious to the point where you almost start to love them. And I will also say their tag team finisher is pretty cool. Like when they pick them up by their limbs and then just throw them up in the air and then they come back down. That's kind of a cool move, but and kind of a unique move for them, which makes sense because they're cheerleaders, they're male cheerleaders. Uh, but Shawn quickly then disposes of them. Then Shane shows up and gets involved, and he tries to do what they already did to Shawn, where Shawn against his will, I should say, joined the infamous Kiss My Ass Club, where Vince pulls down his pants and another wrestler is shoved into the bare butt cheeks. And it's crazy that it had been going on for years, and yet it's still going on. Like we even saw it as far back as 2001. That's how Undertaker turned heel when Jim Ross was shoved into Vince's butt. But this time, Shawn turns the tables and shoves Shane into Vince's behind, and so Shawn takes advantage from there, and then pretty much throughout the rest of the match, Shawn just pummels Vince. Like, Vince gets little to no offense in, which I think is what works best when it comes to a Vince McMahon match, which there's not too many of them, but when it comes to a Vince McMahon match, I think the formula that works is Vince gets one or two things of offense in and has other people do his dirty work for them. Meanwhile, the opponent and pretty much gives Vince his comeuppance and gets the lion's share of the offense in. We saw it at St. Valentine's Day Massacre when he took on Austin in the steel cage. We've seen it plenty other times, and I think we see it here. And then when that doesn't, the times it doesn't work is when Vince gets the majority of the offense in, or Vince doesn't get his comeuppance. And I think that's where things falter, such as like the match against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 26, or for a more recent example, when he fought Pat McAfee in a match at WrestleMania 38. But I think when Vince just gets the bejesus beaten out of him and tries to have others run interference, but still gets his comeuppance, I think that's what works best, and that's what they do for this match. Shawn just absolutely annihilating Vince. The Spirit Squad is already disposed of. Shane is then handcuffed to to the ropes. Like Shawn hits Vince with the chair, with the ladder. Her Vince is busted open. There's even a really scary moment when Shawn nails Vince with the ladder, and Vince, who is already bleeding, he already started bleeding after the spot with the framed poster, and then he just gushes more and more when he's hit in the head. Then and Shawn just clips Vince, and Vince is like bleeding from the back of his head. Like it looked absolutely nasty. And I forgot that's how because I had seen this match. It's been a long time since I've seen this match, but at least in its entirety. But I forgot about that spot, and it looks nasty. Props to Vince for taking all these shots, but he doesn't get the hands up. Normally, that's kind of what you do. Like you get the hands up. Maybe not as much back then, because this is before they banned like shots to the head and everything in the wake. Stuff like what happened to Eddie Guerrero and like Chris Benoit, especially Chris Benoit. But this is kind of before then, when they were just taking all kinds of unprotected shots to the head, and Vince takes all of these to the head, and each one of them looks absolutely nasty. And sure enough, Vince is split open, and then this really big dive where Shawn gets this big old whole ladder, which would make Jeff Hardy blush. That's probably why he came back later this year, or because Jeff probably was looking from TNA like, what, they got large ladders? Oh, I better make my way back there. But Shawn produces this giant ladder, puts a trash can over Vince's head, and then nails the elbow through the table. And then eventually, like, hey, the match has stopped briefly, like as the EMTs rush out, Shawn shoos them off, and then nails the sweet chin music, and the match is over from there. So, Shawn essentially gives Vince his comeuppance. This would not be the end of their feud. Oh no. Oh, but that is for another time. But Shawn does get a measure of revenge against Vince McMahon, who literally, as he's being carried away on the stretch after the match is over, flips Shawn off as he's being carried out. Defiant till the end is Vince. And my other, or perhaps most favorite part of this match is Jim Ross. Just absolutely, Jim Ross is completely biased against Vince in this match, and it's actually really hilarious. Like, commentary bias, I feel like, can be either hit or miss. It's either really entertaining or really annoying. But in this case, Jim Ross pretty much deriding Vince the entire time, especially when Shawn's whooping him. Like Jim Ross cheering his head off the whole time. Like uh asking Shawn to pummel him. He does slow down a bit once, like Shawn, before Shawn, as Shawn, I should say, is going for the ladder spot. But the whole time, Jim Ross is just ripping Vince apart verbally, and it is really absolutely funny. I don't know who Jim Ross hates in kayfabe more, Vince or Triple and someone in real life when it comes to Vince. Um, but yeah, Jr. just annihilates, just verbally just rips Vince the whole match, and he straight up says on commentary, he says, "I'm gonna be like super biased." I appreciate the honesty, Jr. In terms of what I did, if I had to find something to dislike about the match, like I said, it's not really much of a match. It's more of a public execution of Vince McMahon, which I get, which, like I said, that formula works. But if you're looking for like grapples and holds and takedowns and stuff like that, you're not gonna find it here. It's definitely more of a spectacle in a lot of ways, and Hayes and it definitely is more, I don't want to say cartoony, but definitely more of a a comedic match in some senses, or and slash like a brawl. Oh, it's essentially a glorified brawl, I think, is the best way to describe it. It's not like it's not like a technical masterpiece or like a 30-minute classic. It's pretty much just a giant brawl with Shawn getting the majority of the offense in, as it should be. But I can see why you would dislike it if that's not really your kind of thing. Which, it's, hey, to each their own. I'm not here to judge. But the other thing is like that respite as they're calling the EMTs out, I think drags on a bit too long. But I guess it makes sense to add to the drama of the match and show that, oh, Shawn is unhinged and everything. But it felt a little, excuse me, it felt like they were dragging it quite a bit. And the other one is all those like nasty shots to the head that Vince takes. Like, it adds to the match, and Vince definitely gets the color, but a lot of it looks really nasty. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said, wouldn't be the last encounter between Shawn and the McMahons, and eventually Triple H would be added to the mix, and we would see the return of D-Generation X. They teased it throughout the night. Shawn, before he leapt off the ladder, and even he did it to Shane while Shane was still handcuffed. He did the cross chops. Triple H did them in his match against John Cena. DX would reform later on in the year, but that is for another time. But in the meantime, until that moment arises, though, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on those post notifications so you know every single time I upload a video so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on this match, my review of the match. Do you like the match? Do you like my review of the match? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.